The black dress made Carolyn Jones famous, then ruined her life. After The Addams Family was canceled, casting directors only saw Morticia. Desperate and divorced, she married again in 1968. Her new husband convinced her Hollywood was finished with her. He moved her to Palm Springs. He controlled her completely. She disappeared for 7 years during her prime. When she finally escaped in 1977, she had just $3,700 and nowhere to go. This is the sad story Carolyn Jones had to live through. Carolyn Sue Jones was born on April 28, 1930, in Amarillo, Texas. Her birth certificate clearly showed that name, but just 2 months later, a second version was filed, changing the spelling to Carolyn. Her father, a barber named Julius, wasn't even living with the family at the time. He had moved to Midland, Texas, while her mother, Chloe, only 11 days before the birth, was recorded living at her parents' house at 2132 Hayden Street. From the beginning, Carolyn's life came wrapped in small mysteries. One of the strangest claims about her was that she was 1/8 Native American and directly descended from the legendary Apache chief Geronimo. This story was repeated in books, interviews, and even in the Handbook of Texas. But when researchers looked into it, her sister Beth called it nothing more than a publicity stunt. Harlan Geronimo, the chief's real great-grandson, said flatly that their family was the only line of descendants. No record ever showed Carolyn had Apache or Comanche blood. It was just another Hollywood illusion. As a child, Carolyn was quiet and lonely. She didn't have many friends and didn't seem to want any. Instead, she escaped into the movie theater. By age 6, she had already decided she would become an actress. Her mother encouraged it. Chloe loved the movies so much, she named her daughters after her favorite stars, Carol Lombard and Bette Davis. Carolyn was shy, but she had a strong imagination and told vivid stories to anyone who'd listen. She wasn't just playing pretend, she was preparing. But life at home was far from easy. In 1934, when Carolyn was only 4, her father walked out and never came back. Her mother couldn't cope. Chloe suffered from severe agoraphobia and couldn't work. The little family had no choice but to move in with Carolyn's grandparents. Her grandfather, who worked at an implement company, suddenly had 3 more mouths to feed. The house was small, loud, and tense. He had a bad temper, often snapping without warning. Carolyn withdrew deeper into her own mind, building stories and characters just to survive emotionally. On top of that, she was sick, really sick. Carolyn suffered from chronic asthma that often became life-threatening. She spent weeks stuck in her bedroom, gasping for air, too weak to even go outside. She missed out on school, games, and simple joys. But during those long, isolated days, she found something powerful. She listened to comedy radio shows and imagined entire scenes in her head. She studied fan magazines like textbooks, learning how stars posed, how films were made, how stories unfolded. Her body was weak, but her creativity became unstoppable. When she got a little older and her asthma eased, Carolyn poured her energy into school. At Amarillo High, she was a star student. She shined in elocution classes. Her voice, smooth, striking, and oddly mature, became her signature. By junior year, she won first place in the Tri-State Declamation Contest, beating out students from Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. She kept winning more awards in speech and drama. After graduating in 1947, she aimed high. She wanted to go to the Pasadena Playhouse in California, a training ground for serious actors. Her grandfather didn't approve. He wanted her to be a doctor or lawyer. When he took her to Southern Methodist University to enroll, she broke down, sobbing on the rotunda steps until he gave in. He agreed to pay her tuition to Pasadena. That raw passion, that unwillingness to let go of her dream, that was pure Carolyn. At just 17, she moved to California. Some records suggest she wasn't even that old, maybe 15, but she claimed to be 18 to get into the Playhouse. No one could prove otherwise, and she was determined. For 3 years, she worked hard, acted in every production she could, and even joined traveling theater tours. She never looked back at Texas, choosing instead to bury her lonely childhood in glamour and ambition. But Hollywood didn't open its arms for talent alone. Carolyn realized realized she had to change more than just her address. She underwent painful cosmetic surgery, reshaping her nose to match the standards of 1950s beauty. It was expensive and agonizing. She dyed her hair platinum blonde and spent every dime she had on perfecting her image. That investment paid off. A talent scout saw her at a small theater and got her a screen test. Paramount offered her a 6-month contract. Her family rejoiced, but Carolyn quietly wondered who she had become. It wasn't just her appearance she changed. She hired a dialect coach to erase her Texas accent and practiced for hours every day. She studied how to walk, how to sit, how to hold herself like a movie star. She mimicked the gestures of established actresses, imitating them until those movements felt like her own. Her wardrobe transformed from simple to chic. People who had known her in Texas didn't recognize her anymore, and neither, sometimes, did she. In 1950, she got married. His name was Don Donaldson, a former Air Corps officer. They had met during a play and dated for a year. At just 20, she tied the knot, maybe out of love, maybe for stability. But the marriage cracked quickly. Donald didn't like her new look or the way other men stared. He had wanted a wife. Carolyn was chasing stardom. They split after just 16 months, another step sacrificed for the dream. Carolyn Jones wasn't supposed to be the star that night. She was just the understudy. But when the lead actress at the Players Ring Theater left suddenly to get married, Carolyn had only hours to prepare. The show had to go on. She stepped into the role, nerves boiling under her skin. But the moment she walked on stage, something clicked. Her performance wasn't just good, it was electric. And in the audience, a Paramount talent scout took notice. That night changed everything. Her film debut came quickly. In 1952, she landed a small part in The Turning Point, a film noir starring William Holden and Edmund O'Brien. Her role wasn't credited, but it got her foot in the door. The film was shot around iconic Los Angeles spots like Angel's Flight and the Olympic Auditorium. Carolyn's screen time was brief, but her face made an impression. Still, television was stealing viewers, and studios were slashing costs. When her contract expired, Paramount let her go, along with 16 secretaries. Carolyn laughed it off, but she knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Then came the chance of a lifetime. In 1953, she was tapped to screen test for From Here to Eternity. The role of Alma Laureen Burke had her name on it until the night before the test. Carolyn was hit with a 104-degree fever, pneumonia. She was rushed to the hospital, lungs already weakened from childhood asthma. She had no choice but to step away. The part went to Donna Reed, who won an Oscar for it. Carolyn could only watch as her big break slipped away. But she wasn't finished. In 1956, she landed a key role in Invasion of the Body Snatchers. She played Teddy Belisic, a woman terrified as her husband discovers an alien replica growing in their home. The film struck a nerve with Cold War audiences. Critics later saw it as a warning against conformity and the loss of individuality. Carolyn stood out, not just for her performance, but for the emotion and sharpness she brought to a genre usually filled with screaming damsels. Her role proved she was more than a pretty face. That same year, Alfred Hitchcock cast her in The Man Who Knew Too Much. She acted opposite James Stewart and Doris Day, playing a glamorous friend caught in a web of suspense. It wasn't her first encounter with Hitchcock. A year earlier, she'd starred in an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents, where she played a secretary helping her boyfriend steal a valuable vase. The part had impressed Hitchcock enough to bring her back. Working with him gave her credibility. She wasn't just a rising star anymore. She was an actress directors could trust. In the early 1950s, she met a skinny Texan named Aaron Spelling. Carolyn had already done films like House of Wax. Aaron was selling airline tickets, but both were outsiders trying to make it in Hollywood, and they bonded quickly. She had already made it farther than most. He was still hustling. They clicked instantly. By 1953, they were in love, but Aaron couldn't propose. He felt like he hadn't earned it. Carolyn got tired of waiting. She proposed to him, something unheard of in the 1950s. Friends were stunned, but Aaron said yes on the spot. It was a sign of how their relationship would work. Carolyn led the way, in life and in love. They married on April 2nd, 1953. Carolyn even converted to Judaism to make it official, but she had no intention of becoming becoming a mother. She said it wouldn't be fair to have children she couldn't put first. In the baby-booming 1950s, that was scandalous. But Carolyn knew who she was. She wasn't going to split herself between acting and parenting. By 1958, they were living large. They built a 13-room mansion, complete with a tennis court and a soda fountain. Carolyn filled her closet with 260 pairs of shoes and draped herself in fur coats and jewelry. The house became a Hollywood landmark, but it also became a lonely place. Aaron started staying out late. Carolyn noticed, but said nothing. Their perfect image was cracking. Still, she never stopped supporting him. She believed Aaron was meant to write, not act. After watching him fumble a line in Kismet, she told him, "You'll never act again. You will write." She pushed his scripts, introduced him to the right people, took roles she didn't want to keep them afloat. She even helped get him in front of Dick Powell, who would later change his life. But by the time Aaron's career took off with shows like The Mod Squad, Dynasty, and Beverly Hills 90210, their marriage was over. They divorced in 1964. Carolyn didn't ask for alimony, even though she had been the breadwinner for years. She walked away with nothing, just as Aaron was becoming one of the richest producers in Hollywood. In 1957, Carolyn Jones walked onto the set of The Bachelor Party looking like a completely different person. Her hair, once strawberry blonde, was now jet black and cut shockingly short. The crew was stunned. But this wasn't just a style choice, it was a calculated move. Years earlier, she'd already changed her look once. Surgery, posture, voice, clothes. She altered everything after realizing that talent alone wouldn't get her the roles. But this time, the transformation hit differently. The dark hair and weary eyes matched her character's mood perfectly. Her scenes were short, but unforgettable. People couldn't look away. That sharp, haunting look became her new identity, and it worked. Practically overnight, she turned into a screen presence no one could ignore. She was only on screen for 6 minutes and 1 second. That's it, but it was enough to shake the industry. In 1958, she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress at the Oscars, one of the shortest performances in history to ever get a nomination, just behind Judi Dench's 5:52 and Hermione Baddeley's 2:19. Her line, "Just say you love me. You don't have to mean it," stuck in people's heads. It wasn't just delivery, it was pain. Her character was lost, tired, and honest in a way that cut deep. Critics praised her like she'd carried the entire film. She didn't win the Oscar, but the nomination alone was enough. Suddenly, she wasn't just another actress. She was the actress people wanted to cast. A year later, in 1958, things exploded again. She won the Golden Globe for Most Promising Newcomer, Female, after her role in Marjorie Morningstar. She played Marcia Zelenko, and this time, it wasn't just 6 minutes. The role showed her range: dramatic, intense, emotional. The same year, she picked up the Golden Laurel Award for Top Female Supporting Performance. That wasn't a critic's choice. That was from theater owners and exhibitors, people who watched the audience react. These weren't just trophies. They were proof. She wasn't a passing name. She was becoming a permanent force. Then came King Creole. Jones played Ronnie alongside Elvis Presley in what's still considered his best film. It wasn't just some romantic throw-in. Critics said she was a knockout, but also heartbreaking. You believed her. You wanted her to escape the sadness in her eyes. Presley later said it was his favorite role. And a big part of why it worked was Jones. The film hit number 5 on Variety's box office chart and had more critical praise than any of Elvis's other movies. The chemistry between Jones and Presley lit up the screen, turning a musical noir into something deeper. In 1959, she did something strange for an actress trying to stay famous. She gave up the flashier part. In career, she had been cast as Sharon Kensington. It was a bigger, more glamorous role. But she switched with Shirley MacLaine, choosing instead to play Shirley Drake, a tired, aging agent who once acted and now helps others chase their dreams. It was a bold move, and it paid off. Critics said it was her best work. The character was smart, broken, tough, and soft all at once. She had a line about the House Un-American Activities Committee that hinted at just how layered her mind and the movie really was. But despite the praise, career didn't make money, and that signaled something was changing. The film world wasn't offering her what it once did. Then came The Addams Family. By 1964, television was where the biggest cultural moments were happening. And at 35, Carolyn Jones became the gothic queen of the small screen. Morticia Addams was pale, elegant, deadly calm. And the reason she got that role? Her ex-husband, Aaron Spelling. He told producers to drop Joan Huntington and cast Jones instead. Even Charles Addams, the cartoonist who created the Addams Family, personally signed off. Jones had already proven herself, but Morticia made her iconic. The show was a hit, and so was she. Within weeks, she became a megastar. But what people didn't see was how much she suffered behind the scenes. That dress, tight, black, and perfect, was a nightmare. It was modeled exactly after the cartoon, which meant she could barely move. The sleeves, the corseted waist, the mesh, the narrow skirt, it was a trap. Angelica Houston, who wore a similar design in the 1990s, said she got headaches, couldn't lie down, and felt drained by midday. Jones endured the same, but you'd never know it watching her glide across the set like a ghost. And then there was the romance. Not off-screen, on it. Morticia and Gomez didn't just love each other, they wanted each other. At a time when TV couples had separate beds and barely touched, they were wild, passionate. Gomez would kiss her arms up and down, whisper in her ear, get lost in her eyes. It was electric, and it was shocking. This was 1960s television, and here was a couple acting like they were newlyweds every single night. They broke the rules, and audiences loved it. It wasn't just chemistry. It was a rebellion against the idea that marriage had to be dull. But just as fast as it rose, it ended. In 1966, ABC canceled the Addams Family after only 2 seasons. No clear reason was ever given. Some say it was competition from Batman. Others blame Hogan's Heroes. Some think the network didn't know how to convert the gothic black and white show into color. Whatever the reason, it was over. Jones was just 37. She had the fame, but suddenly, no income, no contracts, no certainty. She had done everything right. Talent, transformation, awards, reinvention, and still the rug was pulled out. By 1967, Carolyn Jones was desperate to escape Morticia Addams. The role had made her famous, but now it felt like a trap. So she returned to Broadway, hoping the stage would give her the respect she craved. She joined the cast of Harold Pinter's play, The Homecoming. On paper, it was a serious role in a prestigious production. In reality, it was a disaster. The script disturbed her. The cast felt cold. Critics couldn't stop bringing up her TV past. Some didn't even care about her acting. They just called her Morticia on stage. Carolyn tried to stay strong, but night after night, the experience wore her down. She later told friends it was torturous. She hated every second. Her dream of being taken seriously as a dramatic actress had turned into a nightmare, and the timing couldn't have been worse. She was already dealing with a divorce and a stalled career. Broadway had been her escape. Instead, it broke her. In that low moment, she made a quick decision that would haunt her for years. On December 19, 1968, she married her vocal coach, Herbert Green. He was respected on Broadway. He had won a Tony. At first, it seemed like a safe choice. Someone from her world. Someone who understood the pressure. But within months, friends noticed something was wrong. Green was controlling. He answered questions for her, made decisions behind her back, and treated her like a child. One colleague called him the worst kind of opportunist. Soon, he was telling her to quit acting altogether. Hollywood, he claimed, had moved on. At 38, she was too old, he said. He made her doubt herself. He convinced her to give up her career and move to Palm Springs. By 1970, Carolyn was gone from Hollywood. Green had moved her 107 miles away into a big house in the desert. She didn't know anyone there. He did. It gave him even more control. She barely left the house. In 7 years, she went to just 3 industry events, always with Green by her side. He intercepted her mail. He rejected job offers without telling her. To the outside world, she had simply retired. But in reality, she was being erased. Neighbors saw her walking alone, looking lost. Friends couldn't reach her. The woman who once turned heads at every Hollywood party was now a ghost in the desert. From 1968 to 1975, Carolyn Jones disappeared. She missed roles that could have brought her back. Directors were casting strong, mature women, like Anne Bancroft and Glenda Jackson. Carolyn never even got the chance to audition. Industry magazines began to wonder where she'd gone. Her ex-husband, Aaron Spelling, was becoming one of the most powerful producers in television. But Carolyn was fading. She was in her prime, 38 to 45, but completely shut out. It was like she had never existed. The damage wasn't just to her career, it was to her identity. Carolyn had been performing since childhood. Acting wasn't just her job, it was who she was. And Green took that away. Friends noticed she wasn't herself anymore. Her energy was gone. Her spark had vanished. She told one friend about recurring nightmares, being on set and forgetting her lines. Her asthma worsened. Green even took down her awards and told her to stop talking about her past. By 1975, Carolyn looked and acted like a different person. She later said she had been existing rather than living. Even in photos, the change was obvious. Her face looked tired. Her eyes were empty. But in 1977, something changed. One night, she watched a rerun of The Addams Family at a friend's house. Seeing herself on screen, bold, funny, fearless, it hit her hard. She didn't recognize the woman she'd become. That episode lit a fire. She made a plan. When Green left on a business trip, she packed her things and left. She had just $3,700 and nowhere to go. So she stayed with John Aston, her old co-star, until she found a place. At 46, she was back in Hollywood. Everything had changed. The old studio system was gone. New faces ruled the industry. But Carolyn refused to give up. She started making calls. She knocked on doors. She begged for meetings. And by August 1977, she landed a role in Roots, one of the biggest TV events of the decade. Then came Wonder Woman. Between 1977 and 1981, she acted in 15 productions. Her comeback wasn't easy, but it was real. In 1977, Carolyn Jones took on a bold new role. She played Mrs. Moore in the TV miniseries Roots, a show that would change American television forever. It told the story of slavery in the United States, based on Alex Haley's powerful book. Nearly 130 million people tuned in. That was almost half the country. Jones was part of this history-making event. Her character was part of the white power system the main characters had to face. For Jones, it was a chance to show she could handle serious drama, not just the gothic humor she was known for. It was also a turning point. She wanted people to see her as more than Morticia Addams, and with Roots, she did just that. The critical praise added real weight to her comeback. 2 decades after her Oscar nomination, she proved she still had it. That same year, something unexpected happened. She reunited with her ex-husband, Aaron Spelling, but not in private. Jones appeared on Fantasy Island and The Love Boat, both produced by Spelling. The two had divorced in 1965 after 12 years of marriage. They first met when Jones was rising in Hollywood, and Spelling was still struggling. She had actually proposed to him and supported his writing career from day one. At one point, she even threatened to leave if he didn't take writing seriously. Her push helped him become one of TV's most powerful producers. But as Spelling's career soared, Jones felt ignored. She once told gossip queen Hedda Hopper, "He's married to the job." Even so, they stayed on good terms. Jones would even joke about his height, slipping in a line about producers being too short. A light-hearted dig that showed they stayed friendly despite everything. As her career picked up again, Jones found love one last time. She met Peter Bailey Britton during her Hollywood return. They were together for 5 years before getting married on September 25, 1982. It was her 4th marriage and her most heartfelt. Just a year earlier, doctors had diagnosed her with colon cancer. She kept it private, telling friends she had ulcers. But she knew the truth, and she married Bailey Britton knowing the cancer was back and terminal. Still, she went ahead. After 3 failed marriages, she had finally found someone who stood by her. Their marriage didn't last long. Jones passed away on August 3, 1983. But Bailey Britton stayed with her until the end. Before she died, she told her sister she wanted her epitaph to say, "She gave joy to the world." That one line said everything about her. Even as her health declined, she kept working. In 1982, she took on the role of Myrna Clegg on the CBS soap Capital. Myrna was no small role. She was a power-hungry matriarch locked in a bitter feud with her former friend, Clarissa. The show was full of political drama set in Washington, D.C., and Myrna was right at the center. But off-screen, Jones was battling cancer. She filmed scenes while sitting in a wheelchair, fighting through pain most people couldn't bear. By April 1983, she was too sick to continue. Marla Adams stepped in briefly, and then Marge Doozy took over. Jones had fought to keep acting acting for as long as she could. Her performance added one final, powerful role to a career that spanned over 90 screen credits. But her battle didn't begin on Capitol. It started in the skies. On a flight from Dallas to Los Angeles in early 1981, she suddenly fell violently ill. She made it to the bathroom just in time, vomiting blood while fellow passengers looked on, shocked. Jones stayed composed. No ambulance was called. She got herself to the hospital and underwent emergency surgery. Doctors removed part of her stomach. She told friends it was just ulcers. But a few weeks later, she got the real diagnosis: advanced colon cancer. At 51, she had just revived her career and found love again. Now she faced a hidden war. She chose to keep it secret. No pity, no headlines. She went through brutal surgeries and chemotherapy in silence, timing it around work. She had already lost years to her last marriage, isolated in Palm Springs, away from Hollywood. Now she was back, and she refused to let cancer take it all away again. Her determination was unbelievable. She even turned down pain meds during filming, so her acting wouldn't suffer. By 1983, her body had endured all it could. The cancer had spread to her liver and stomach. Weighing less than 90 pounds, she still kept going. That September, she married Peter in a small, emotional ceremony. She wore a lace cap to cover her hair loss. Despite everything, she kept her sense of grace. In July, after a hard day on set, she slipped into a coma at home. On August 3rd, she passed away, with Peter by her side. She was just 53. Her ashes were buried next to her mother, who had also died of cancer just 4 years earlier. But Carolyn Jones was not forgotten. Before she died, she arranged for her Morticia Addams costume and wig to be preserved by the Academy. Her husband later donated original scripts from the Addams Family to UCLA. Though the show only ran 2 seasons, Jones made Morticia unforgettable. Scholars now credit the character for breaking ground, mixing dark humor, erotic energy, and maternal love in a way no woman on TV had done before. Morticia wasn't just spooky, she was powerful. She stood out in a world that expected women to stay quiet.